Alex Answer here, January 18th, 2019. We've been having a little bit of back and forth locally here with the weather, also perhaps nationwide. This could also have an effect on our consciousness. There could be periods in which it's interesting that all this stuff's happening with the government shutdown. I want to touch on that. But as the government shuts down, again, here off the grid, in the mountains of southern Colorado, I get my own practice, grid down, if you will, periods in which I'm stuck and also feeling the stress regarding the psychology about being stuck, even if there may be weeks in which I may not go somewhere. That's not so much the case anymore. I try to stay somewhat mobile. I have current insurance for the car. I've had my own mishaps with the vehicle and past vehicles. This is my third winter at this particular location, and I'm grateful to have a location where I reside that isn't too extreme as far as like steep incline. Those that design the roads here, there's a little bit of ingenious, I think, that went into it. I mean, it gets steep, and there's a lot of fear as well going down the hill. And I've talked about this in another video that's yet to be uploaded. We've had snowstorms upon snowstorms, which can make it difficult to even bother to upload. So, in the meantime, I'll be aware of what's taking place in the news. I'll touch upon that. But being that I don't have a lot of other things going on in my life, and I now have some experience being here for a few years and having the YouTube channel being a focal point of my life and talking about things that are going on in the world. A lot of them dealing with these major political charges as well as economic. So a lot of people have their fears, their angers, their hopes, their dichotomies, how they see it versus someone else. And it can feel really tense to even be someone in my shoes that's contributing intellectual analysis and information to a world that at times, no offense, I love a lot of you, especially those of you that do support on Patreon and elsewhere, PayPal, VHX, but it is like pearls before swine with regards to much of the world at large. Much of the world at large. It's a difficult time for a guy like me that can see a lot of the topics. They're like my staples, my bread and butters, if you will, like my core topics. I see other people bastardize those topics, and it bothers me. Is the ego challenged? Oh, big time. Can a lot of things like snowball at once in almost like an accelerated vortex? And does it feel like we're in that period now to where we need to be on more on the spiritual path than the political and revolutionary, especially as we close in on 2020? And I even heard another YouTuber, it was Astro from Reprogram the Matrix. He says some interesting things. He seems to think he knows it all. None of us know it all, but he's talking about us getting on our 2020 vision. And that's interesting. And it's interesting in light of the next solar cycle. There's mainline solar physicists that are looking for signs of a new magnetic direction regarding solar activity. We're still in a solar minimum, and the effects of the solar minimum, how deep or how grand it actually will be, those results are yet to be seen. But at a certain point in time, then the focus is going to be on the rise of the next solar cycle. And we will be at 2022 before we know it. And there is a lot of concern right now and fear regarding this government shutdown and whatever side of the fence you're on. It's far more complicated. There's more positions than pro or anti Trump. I mean, think about the whole thing. I mean, the greater reality is you have elements of the government shutting down that may not need to be shut down. Meanwhile, there's probably other elements of the government that aren't shut down. So is it a full, real government shutdown, or are people being held hostage? I know there's a lot of sensitivity to the truth being basically told as it is, but that's basically what it is. However, again, and I've been consistent with this, I don't see a real difference between Pelosi and Donald Trump. So the latest is, just so you know, I don't choose to follow too closely, but Trump is blocking Pelosi from visiting the troops in Afghanistan. And these types of moves are moves that can really whip the masses up into a frenzy on both sides, get their emotions going, get their angers going, right? And it's part of like this drama, and it goes back and forth and back. And It's interesting how there's so many different people that are affected, and yet it's coming down to whether or not a few people decide whether they're going to agree or not. So there's definitely a conditioning process taking place of the people. I don't know how much intelligence is going on, intelligent analysis. I mean, unless there's a foundation based on how they coordinate this on both sides. Picture two fighters in a boxing ring, and both of them are basically going to be paid out by some of the same interests, individuals, investors, right, in the rig game. And so, just like so-called professional wrestling is a better comparison. Both of those players in that show know the outcome, as it is in DC. So unless you can show me or cite some analysis that's being done, you're not going to see that from RT. And RT plays both sides. So there's a lot of noise going on. There's a lot of noise. So here's a question for you: mental health. Is it better to be misinformed and entertained, or is it better to maybe not know every single detail and have the peace of mind? No, I'm not saying ignorance is bliss. Balance, Jedi. See, we talk about how many of you have heard me talk about the buffet of fast food? You don't want to eat all that fast food. Oh my, did you notice Donald Trump with the fast food? There you go, fast food king. Now, you want to talk about in plain sight? Let's just pause it right here on this moment and then come back to some other stuff. I'm going to tell you about all this crazy snow outside. I'm so glad the snow's out and melting it. You want to talk about in plain sight? Like he's going to, okay, we're going to have a government shutdown. But hey, come on, come on. Basketball kid. And then I see the same basketball guy who's got like four like Burger King things. You saw the picture? Yeah. Donald Trump, government shutdown. What government shutdown? What the hell? So you're shutting down the government and you're having a buffet of fast food because you're not hiring or you don't have, I mean, give me a break. You don't have chefs in the back of the White House. So then you're going to spend on the taxpayer. Oh, I'm going to spend all my money. I'm going to spend all my. So what kind of messaging is this? Donald Trump going to buy us all a Big Mac with his money? I mean, what kind of like daddy symbolism was that? No, it's cool. It's my money. Yeah, yeah, I'm going to buy it. And he even said something though. It was like, enjoy the food. He paused before he said food. I swear to God. Donald Trump paused before he actually called it food. Alex Ansary picked up on that messaging. Donald Trump will put out stuff in plain sight to his own worshipers, and they'll be too dumb to pick it up. Be like, didn't you see how he kind of paused before he actually said food? Shut up, dude. Just keep eating your burger. And so there was just like this whole type of symbolism that I got from that. And I'm not trying to take it too deep. I ain't listening to Rush Limbaugh. I will not watch that witch, Rachel Maddow. So you have these people in the perceived left or right, but I just see people that are just make noise. While you literally have like, like one of those big like types of like machinery that has those things that flattening bodies, and just like this trail of blood. Anyways, I'm really glad that finally the not the snow blower, not the snowman, we'll call him a snowman. My vocabulary is not that limited, but the man that pushes the snow, the county, uh, the people that clear the roads, basically. They just got up here, and so we have these periods in which I'm snowed in, and then periods in which I'm trying to unstuck myself from where I'm at in the driveway, and I will find out how much farther I can get my car to slide down the driveway. Because we're not talking about like an Alex Ansary driveway with hundreds of dollars of gravel invested. That's just dirt. That's just dirt. That's right. That's right. So then we start having like the snowfall, ice, snow some more, melt, ice, and then some sun. And sometimes it's not enough for me to even get out of the driveway for days. Like last night, 8 inches. Literally just like that, 8 inches of snow. So let's talk about the people being affected by the government shutdown. But I want to lead in by that by saying I've been kind of conditioning myself to live without less. I'm not fully prepared. I did get myself some roast beef in a can, believe it or not, from Walmart. It was a 12-ounce can, but they admit that there's some water in there. So you're basically getting maybe about 8 ounces of meat for $2.99, meaning you're basically paying $6 a pound, which isn't a great deal. But I've been trying to experiment with other things. The tuna in the can nor the chicken in the can is all that attractive to me, but I'll try the chicken in the can. I'm looking again at the idea of stocking up in case we do deal with some major emergencies. But as someone that's been involved in this stuff, and I told you in a recent video that I bought a bunch of food a long time ago, I've been through these waves, basically. I've been through these waves. And it's not healthy to always be in a state of mind to where the shit is always hitting the fan. This mentality does not lead to a happy way of life. Um, it doesn't necessarily attract the best people into our lives if people are going for just the survivalist element and that mentality. And there's a lot of people that, they may have had my ear and interest years ago, and some time has passed. I've grown up a little bit. I've come to see, even within these people's preparedness programs, maybe the gaps, the arrogance, but also with regards to preparedness, survival, things of that nature. Um, what about attempting to be as moral and ethical as possible, right? To get as right as possible with God before some of these. And some of these people, individuals, haven't necessarily gone that way or route. We also have to protect ourselves from offing ourselves in the meantime. Some people can't do that. This is a society that is suffering from a epidemic of that, and nor is it a society yet with a come to God moment to where it's really looking for the answers as to what's really wrong with people. There's still the gatekeepers that are out there in the mental health professional fields, right? And I can touch on that. I'm not an expert on that, right? But I can touch upon what I know and what I can see from the papers and also experiences, things I've heard from others. One of the things that I do want to address is that at the base foundation, this government shutdown is manufactured, doesn't have to happen the way that it is, even if they want to get their money. Like, look at how much they're wasting for this space war upcoming with China and Russia, possibly. Donald Trump and the space war upgrade, space weapons, weapons in space. Nearly $1 trillion for that type of a thing, and yet there's some sort of an argument about 5.7 billion when you have both the Democrats and Republicans expanding the military industrial complex. And you know that. So when we start to see certain signs, logic steps in and go, this is somewhat more of a show for the public. We're being led somewhere psychologically. And then it's also occurred at the time that we're seeing escalating trade tensions. We're not really seeing the full effects come out. A lot of it seems like a show, almost as if we're being conditioned to not really take it seriously. But the idea of a trade war with China leading to a hot war. So, like, people are kind of in almost a sleepwalking paralysis through what's going on. And they can maybe even make it seem like it was about like Democrats versus Republicans as to why they brought America down a notch and started to condition us to a certain level of poverty. There could be another reason why they're doing that. And if they're really running out of money and the government's really shutting down, well, the military is not really shutting down. Is the surveillance society shutting down? And on elements of that, they keep messaging, they keep saying TSA, TSA, airport security, airport security. Are they preparing us for you got to watch my language here. Are they preparing us for an event that they will manufacture? No, not the deep dish pizza gate with extra cheese and crust. Get Donald Trump, and he was even in a commercial where he turned the pizza crust backwards. They're putting the cheese in the crust. Now, I think you're Donald Trump. You can actually afford to eat steak, like good steak, like organic. You really think like now, honestly though, let's talk about the real Donald Trump versus the actor Donald Trump that's presented to us. Do you think that he prefers truly KFC and Diet Coke and all this crap? Or doesn't he seem to be a part of the commercial itself? Like, wasn't that a commercial for the fast food industry? There, Donald King, Trump, Donald King, whoa, Don King, Donald Trump, King, Trump, standing before this buffet, and then just with the King too, and Burger King. Burger King. You see all the symbolism, return to the king. Burger King, Donald Trump. I'm loving it. We're away right away. And then it also seemed like they had a bunch of cakes. You can have your cake and eat it too. I'm not sure why they needed so much cake. But again, they say government shutdown, government shutdown. And let's talk about the people that we know will be most affected by it. HUD. So those on low income, Section 8 housing, 800,000 furloughed workers. So we see articles that they're already at the food banks because, of course, they're not on EBT. So we haven't yet dealt with the EBT stuff. They're saying they may issue some payments early, balance your budgets to get them through March because they'll assume by March they'll be up and running. But will they? And as they militarize the border, echoes of my own past podcasts from 2 years ago, some with Kyle Reardon, some of my own, where I warned of maybe even a crisis at the border, maybe Alex Jones being involved. Now, I'm not following, nor do I have maybe a volunteer researcher go out and gather specific information for me. That would be kind of cool. But it's cool. But it'd be good to like, hey, because I don't want to go up and deal with, and what is his main talking points right now? What are the intelligence agencies that are channeling through the entity known as Alex Jones saying to us and messaging to us and things of nature and things of that caliber? I talked about some things where he was going at it, talking about a woman that he claims was in a full-on burqa, which was sat down, and he went into this monologue, right? And I'm saying to you, as I've been saying, probably one of the few. Period. It's not an accident when, to a certain degree, the sky isn't completely falling, but there's like stuff coming down. You know what I mean? There's like elements of the war machine getting into position. And when you have this many things you can actually talk about that are like very real and pressing, and you have the whole world on you, watching you, and then you go off, trail off, and you start targeting a particular group or exaggerating something, or start screaming like they always set me down next to them, like, really, like, yeah, taking it to a whole another level. Basically playing the role of a madman. And I believe he's doing that willfully, but he also is one. But he may not be as crazy as he's portraying himself to be. There are people that have said that about the old Alex Jones as well, from 10 years ago, 15 years ago. So as they message that, because we're going to segue to AMTV, because Chris Green, you don't get a pass in this one. It's not just about, cryptocurrency scam. We have AMTV following InfoWars and their lead with amping up the foreigner threat to the conservative base or to Trump himself. So there may have been something, but I remember trying to look up something, and this is not the first time that's been claimed by Christopher Green of AMTV regarding an attempt on Trump. And then maybe a follow-up claim, the media covering it up. It's like, well, there should at least be something on Fox News. There should at least be something on the front page of Google. They've reported on things in the past, and then people go with these narratives. So I'm not sure what's going on with this alleged AMTV claim about someone with a name that sounded, it sounded like a foreigner name to me. Sounded like it could have been Middle Eastern. Somebody like, deciding that they had enough with Donald Trump and they've had enough and they are, and the type of world that Chris Green and others present to us, it's this nightmarish world of all of these sleeper agents rising up against Trump, their savior. And it's so perverted where they take it. How could we not say something? And so, when I sit back and I look at what they're doing, there's a whole array of individuals that are moving in lockstep in the alternative media that live in this alternative reality that has polluted YouTube to the point of it's debatable whether it's been so polluted with elements of YouTube's help, I would say, that it's debatable whether or not it's even worth it long term to invest much of ourselves, much more in this platform. There's a lot of wickedness that this platform of YouTube is involved in. That's why we can deal with complications, especially real independents like myself, to where in the algorithm, we're all just considered in this box that they put us in. And this box that the YouTube engineers, the Google engineers have created, it's an echo chamber of the right, whether you want to accept that or not. Meaning, all different types of people will be directed to my content that may be best suited for Alex Jones or Jordan Peterson or some other person, AMTV Next News Network. But there I can see my own YouTube channel recommended on another YouTube channel where they're talking about Q, and it's very pro Trump, very left right paradigm. These are the types of things that create complications. And so this is like advanced study analysis of the likes, which requires much energy, research, and speaking even begin to scratch the surface. How they've used this machine and algorithm to send us against each other and to divide us. To where, somebody could be speaking about a particular message, and yet the machine could be working in ways to make it complicated for me to even reach them. The point where they're like, okay, well, instead of just censor some of these individuals, how do you create these little echo chambers to where it just stays in on itself but doesn't really burst out to the larger audience? People like myself have been in our own type of musing how we break outside of that limitation. We break outside that box, being that this very much is one. And those of you that are watching these things progress could be having your own understandings too. Never neglect your own ability to write and to communicate your own truth, because that may be needed in the future for people to be able to even describe what the hell even happened within our society. And it's interesting how we have just an abundance of communication and technology to pass back and forth this communication, but the real lack of quality. When I look at things that I listen to, and there's a number of things that I listen to online where I'll convert something to MP3 and listen to it on my audio recorder, which unfortunately I lost earlier while cleaning the driveway of snow. I lost a possession of mine that it was very close to me. And I'll listen to some old lectures from the 50s or even earlier on a number of different things regarding things that I'm researching, or even some old time radio to spark the paintbrush in the mind's eye, instead of just watching TV and watching movies. Or even an old Art Bell, although I'm not a big fan of all of this stuff, MP3, or even William Cooper. Definitely stay away from even old school Alex Jones at this point, being that he's wrapped himself up with so much evil. But there's all different types of things, nostalgic things, from music to lectures to movies, that all choose to tap into more so than the bullshit alternative media so-called truth reporters of today's day and age, because one is far more toxic and harmful to the mind than the other. And seeing how many of my so-called peers have been turned to the dark side is heartbreaking, right? It's like watching not only a train wreck, it's like watching an auto wreck and there's the bodies. It's like, ouch. And it's like watching the fall, right, of our people. So sometimes it's safe to shield yourself from that, right? Because there could be some PTSD that some people could be experiencing that are waking up to the deception within the truth movement, how few real truthers are actually out there. And some people might even lose the will to continue. And I think there's a lot of ways in which this world is conspiring in a way against us to, make us another one of its victims, or to get us to check out prematurely. I know I'm not in a world that supports me advancing my message, being received by more people. It's really a world that has a lot of other weird excuses for why things are the way they are. And, that is a stream in which I'm swimming against. I'm not swimming with the stream of the mainstream, whether it be the mainstream or the mainstream alternative media. The tune that I sing is alternative to even the alternative. It's my own spark of life and truth that I get with the situation, or a number of situations, whatever we're talking about. And so, as the sun comes out today and melts some of the snow, this is a little bit of update from me to you, right? Going to continue these videos. We have a little bit of some technical difficulties here and there right now with audio, and it is what it is. As far as I'm concerned, we seem to potentially be at the tail end of a generation of instantaneous media sharing. I see the next few years as highly volatile. not a time to be bothered with impressing others, things of a superficial nature. Time to really rapidly evolve, like quantum leap from where we were to where we're going. See, I look at myself, where do I want to be? Beyond 40, it's less on a materialistic level and it's more on a spiritual level. It's way on a letting go level, and it's looking back on a legacy, really, a lifetime within a lifetime. My last 14, 15 years of speaking truth into the collective hive mind, also gauging the results, and then that also being its own story. That also being its own story. How the world responded or didn't respond to the things that I was saying to the world at the time in which I was saying them. That's all for now. We'll be back.